When you look at summits in NASCAR history, records that seem to not ever be able to be beaten, one that is mentioned but not to the degree of like Petty's 200th win or so would be that of a 7-time champion. There are currently, at the moment, 3 7-time champions in NASCAR history. Richard Petty, the first to do so, the King. Dale Earnhardt, the second to do so, the man who defined NASCAR in its come-up, the Intimidator. And Jimmie Johnson, the most recent to do it, who's done it in the last 10 years. The Dominator, 7-time, 5-time, whatever time. These 3 drivers really define the pinnacle of NASCAR racing in each definitive era that they raced in. Each had to overcome different obstacles, different drivers, and basically had to overcome what was at the time the elite of the elite in stock car racing. And while Jimmie Johnson was the latest to do this in 2016, only being 6 years removed, there still is a lot that has changed since his time has ended atop the NASCAR throne. And today, I'm going to show you why there will never be a 7-time champion in NASCAR again. Starting off, the big one is the playoff format. Well, Jimmie Johnson won in a version of the playoff format in 2016, and the playoff format is still relatively new. In my opinion, it has been shown at this point to be unbreakable, unlike the Winston Cup style points or any of the 2004 to 2013 style chase formats. Earnhardt and Petty figured out the full Winston Cup Series format. They figured out how to be consistent, how to get as many points as possible, eliminate dumb mistakes, and ultimately get the title. Jimmie Johnson and Chad Knaus broke the 2004 to 2013 chase. They managed to put together just good enough or even elite level regular seasons, rack up wins when they got bonus points, and also be able to test throughout the season to see if they got different things they could make better. And then once the chase started, they were honed in on those 10 races, and ultimately no one could catch them without either a crash or just bad luck happening to the 48 team. The playoff format does not have a magic trick to beat it. There is no weakness that this format has. Chaos will reign supreme in this format, and this is just how NASCAR has designed it. This isn't to bash the playoff format. This is the designed intention. While NASCAR will have their slogan of winning means more than ever, what really means more than ever is making it more difficult, whether intentional or not, for people to repeat. There has been no champion who has won back-to-back championships in this kind of format. And in my opinion, the chaos of 3 race rounds will eliminate key contenders at very inopportune times in their careers. Look at Jimmie Johnson in 2015. He was eliminated in the first round of the chase that season because of just having a part failure. Look at Kevin Harvick in 2020, the absolute best driver of the season, having a season that is on par with those that Jimmie Johnson, Jeff Gordon, or Dale Earnhardt would have, but because he had bad luck, a bad aero package, and didn't get stage points, well, he was eliminated. Chase Elliott this past year, far and away the best driver all season, the most consistent, the winningest. Over the regular season, it also forces less competitive teams to go for wins and points that more competitive teams would have racked up in a more consistent and conservative type of points format. There's times where guys that are running 30th in points are going to be going for bonsai move wins when usually they would have just accepted their poor performance. Another one is kind of in league with this, and it's the closer competition of NASCAR racing in the modern era. In the era of Richard Petty, there were maybe 2 to 4 championship-level teams under the format that they had. And in a lot of those seasons, those teams didn't go full-time, so by default, by having the best equipment and his best competitors not competing in all the races, Richard Petty would get championships. It's not to say he wasn't a great driver, but it's also to say that his competition was not very stiff. It really, in my opinion, is no coincidence that once competitive teams started racing full-time more and money started getting poured into more teams, Richard Petty's time atop the throne became shortened. In Dale Earnhardt's era, there were probably 4 to 8 teams a year who could run at a championship level, and a lot of them made dumb mistakes or didn't know the format as well as the 3-team managed to, and ultimately, Dale Earnhardt managed to become a 7-time champion, winning 4 championships in the first 5 years of the 90s. But when other teams who mastered it even better when it came to that format, had faster cars and could be more conservative towards points while still being aggressive and getting those great finishes like Jeff Gordon did, Earnhardt's time leading the field was ended. In Jimmie Johnson's era, there were probably 6 to 12 championship-level teams if everything went right under the chase format. But Jimmie Johnson and Chad Knaus figured out how to get their cars better for the chase during the regular season while still staying fast, and that ultimately led to them being damn near unbeatable and completely unbeatable for 5 straight seasons in 2006 through 2010. The playoff era now, in my opinion, has 10 to 20 teams that could make a big run into the end of the chase and eliminate guys who ultimately would have won the championship had it not been for this format. Look at Chase Briscoe, for instance, this past year, making it to round of 8 when he was probably a borderline top 20 team. And after those 10 to 20 teams, there's probably 10 others that could steal a win any other week or steal a lot of points away. Nowadays in NASCAR, while fans might not want to admit it, it is probably the most competitive era that we've ever seen. And when you look at average winners during their eras of champion and then the playoff era, it is really evident. In Richard Petty's times that he won championships, there were just under 10 winners on average per season. Dale Earnhardt, on average, had just under 12 winners a season. Jimmie Johnson had 14. And then you had the playoffs, which also had 14, but you add in the fact that you don't have an opportunity to build up points gaps like Johnson did. It shows in a lot of ways why you're never going to see something like these 3 have done ever again. Another factor is age. Age fall off is a really, really big phenomenon that happens in every sport, and in NASCAR, it happens very quickly. While some drivers have raced longer, like Kevin Harvick has or Kurt Busch had, these guys are not the norm. When you look at the 7th title season for each of Johnson, Petty, and Earnhardt, Johnson was 41 years old, Petty was 42, and Earnhardt was 43. Johnson immediately fell off in 2017 and really became a mediocre driver the rest of his career after his 2016 championship. And even then, that championship season overall was much worse than his 2014 or 2015 campaigns. Richard Petty, when he was 42, won his championship and then quickly fell into irrelevance for the next 12 or so years of his career. Dale Earnhardt is the outlier here. He had some competitive seasons in 95 and 96, but injury ultimately took its toll on him, and then his career, of course, was cut short before he could have a resurgence. So we don't know what could have happened with Earnhardt, but based on precedent, I don't think Earnhardt would be racing until 55 at a championship level. Around the ages of these guys' last championships is statistically the start or right before a steep fall off in driver performance. And the last, and in my opinion, actually the most important factor in all of this is we're going to have vastly changing schedules for the foreseeable future in NASCAR. NASCAR has proven to consistently be changing the schedules, being bold and innovative in their words. And we've seen, in my opinion, 5 major changes to points-paying races that just make it so much harder nowadays to put together consistent championship-level seasons on a consistent basis. 1, there's a lot more road courses. Road course racing has become a chaotic, damn near super speedway-esque type of track racing. And when you see the fact that somebody like Chase Elliott, for instance, can run up front for 95% of the race and then get spun out, well, it doesn't really reflect the race he had based on his finish. There's super speedway races like Atlanta now. Atlanta, being a super speedway, might usher in the start of mile-and-a-half super speedway racing in general, which is just at that point a crapshoot with crashing after you get behind the first or second place car. There are street races like Chicago, a possible one in Pittsburgh or Denver or Mexico City. These street races are going to be probably demolition derbies. Then you have, of course, Daytona as a cutoff race. Can eliminate key championship contenders like Martin Truex Jr. this past year. And the possibility of a rotating finale. A rotating finale would be huge because you would never know year to year what you can keep consistent to fight for a championship. The teams would always have to change and adapt. And really, when you look at the way that NASCAR's made their competition, there's no one who clearly pulls away from the field when it comes to adapting on a consistent basis. But with all that, I'm going to pass it on to you. Do you think we'll ever see a 7-time champion again? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're at it, leave a like on this video, share this video, and subscribe to my channel for more great NASCAR content. And thank you so much to all my channel members for keeping this channel afloat and continuing your support. So until next time, have a good one.